Hello and welcome back to the How I Failed in Business podcast. Rob's just dropped something again.
Drop my pen.
We are here today to do what we're always here to do, which is discuss business mistakes by industry leaders. We're talking about the big blunders, the minor mess ups and everything in between. And today we are joined by Claire Hancott. Hello, Claire.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Claire, okay, little run in. Tell us a little bit about yourself, what it is that you do.
Oh, thank you. So I run a business called Profit Cash Growth and I am a chartered accountant, but we don't do any tax or accounts. We're trying to modernise accountancy and support 6 and 7 figure business owners with really valuable, insightful monthly reporting that helps them to increase their profits, improve their cash flow and to grow a financially successful business.
Wow, amazing.
That does sound really well polished.
I have practiced that so much. Every networking event I've gone to, I've like stood in front of the mirror for like 2 hours.
60-minute pitches before, I can tell.
Oh, I hate it. But it's the
Sounded
things
really
you've got
good
to do when you start a business, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And look, from my side as a business owner, it sounds, we were weirdly kind of doing this activity in our office yesterday evening or yesterday afternoon, making a massive hash of it and probably doing everything wrong. But no, it sounds exciting. It does sound really good. You still enjoy it, all saying it with a smile on your face? I
absolutely love what I do. And I can remember I've sometimes had days where I thought, do I want to be in accountancy? It's got such an old, stuffy reputation. But yeah, to be able to show people what value accountancy can have, and it's so much more than just doing your end of year tax returns. It's about I kind of end up becoming like somebody's right hand woman in business and supporting them, and mostly I'm just telling MDs, yes, you can afford to do this, yes, this is the right decision, just crack on and do it.
So I think someone needs to tell Rob, no, you can't do that.
What was raised? What was raised?
So if you could do that for us, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm happy to admit it. So one of the reasons we were doing that activity yesterday was to look at taking on this new office, and we're just looking at cash flow forecasts,
getting a little lean.
Yeah, and we're just saying, look, right, can we do this? And I was a bit shocked at our expenditure on things like gifting, staff entertainment, 100% business entertainment, and I think that was another thing. Weirdly, travel as well. I need to see what we've been categorising under travel. But,
your Tesla, plugging it in.
Well, I don't know what that. I think that would that come under motor vehicle expenses? Would it? Tesla charging? I don't know.
Or maybe your own personal expenditure. How's that?
Shall we crack on with it?
We say this after we've just come back from all watching the basketball together.
We did.
Oh,
yeah, we
fancy.
did. Yes.
Lovely.
Yeah. Are you a basketball? Well, because you play netball, don't you?
I play netball, yes, but not basketball. It's not something that I've ever really played.
No. So what position do you play?
Normally goal defence.
Okay.
But I do like to have a bit of a run around, so I play centre a lot as well. So
okay.
Yeah, it's quite nice.
Yeah.
But it's just I have found so many friends through netball, and I think that's probably why I enjoy netball more than the sport is more, because I'm just playing with my girlfriends all the time, and it's quite a lot of fun, which is lovely.
That's nice.
Really
That's nice.
nice.
I played netball once. Okay, like not like professionally. Obviously, it may look like I would.
In PE.
It was for the mixed teams at college actually. So I played rugby for years. Right, no issues. A bit of a knee injury got me out of the county. Do you know what I mean? But a bit of a knee injury, no major issues. Played netball once, broke a finger.
Do you know what? That's very, very common.
Really?
So, yeah. In fact, it's so common that netballers don't even complain about it. They just continue to play.
Well, obviously, I didn't complain about it.
Obviously.
Obviously, yeah.
I actually fancied playing rugby, and I contacted someone on Facebook, and I arranged to go for a trial, and never really done it before. Don't know the rules of the sport or anything like that, but I thought I'd give it a go. Yeah. And I turned up, and I got there, and I think the lady was called Sarah, and I was saying to people, "Oh, is Sarah here? I've arranged to meet Sarah," and she was actually in hospital after having her leg amputated because she'd been playing rugby at the weekend, dislocated her knee so badly that they had to amputate her leg. So I left and never played rugby.
So did that put you off?
Yes.
And as someone who's dislocated their knee 7 times, lovely to hear that.
Yeah.
Not at all scary.
Yeah, so I've actually got great admiration for anybody that is brave enough to play rugby.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to play again. So I think I'm in the Vets League now, aren't I? If there's any Vets teams out there looking for Thanks. If there's any walking rugby clubs out
Yeah.
there.
Anyway, so I've insulted Rob now, got my one lick in for the podcast, and I'll say, Sarah, obviously we're going to come back to what it is you're doing now, but your sort of start in business and your start with entrepreneurship, how did that sort of begin for you? What did that look like?
So I would say it's in my blood. Both my parents have always had their own businesses. So from a very young age, I was surrounded by business. And I always, when people ask me what I wanted to be when I was older, as a kid, I would say either the Prime Minister or a businesswoman, and there was nothing in between. And when I was 17, I tried to buy a coffee shop, and luckily I didn't, because it was a terrible mistake for somebody of that age with no life experience or business skills. And then I started studying accountancy, and I started my own bookkeeping business when I was doing my studies. But to become a chartered accountant, you need a certain amount of work experience, and the easiest way to get that is in the corporate world. So I went into the corporate world and had quite a successful career there. I reached board level, but my heart has always been in small business, and it's what I wanted to return to. So I left my job about 18 months ago now, and yeah, I've been doing my own business ever since.
Wow. And why was finance a sort of draw for you there? Was there a sort of reasoning behind that, or did you just think it was the way to go?
If I'm honest, I don't know. I've always enjoyed maths and business. I actually went to like a business studies school. It was like one of the first sort of academies, and that specialised in business studies. So we studied business studies, economics and maths, and I was quite good at those three things. So it lended itself well. I actually, when I went to do my A-levels, I didn't want to do accountancy. I wanted to do law, but it wouldn't work with like the subjects that you were choosing. So it was like accountancy or nothing, and the rest is history. Which is a weird story.
Oh, there we go then. So with your sort of parents' inspiration for entrepreneurship, did they sort of help you out? Did you get any tips really from them, or were you very much, no, I'm going to figure this out on my own. If I'm going to do it by myself, I'm going to do it by myself. What was your sort of look in there?
Yeah, I've always been really headstrong. Everybody in my family has always thought the things that I've done is quite crazy. Me and my husband's got his own business as well. He runs an estate agency, and we do wild things like sell our house and buy old bungalows to renovate and things like that. And they always keep telling me that what you're doing is a mistake. You should just stay in that safe corporate world and earn good money and things like that. And so actually they're quite, what I would say, traditional or slightly old school with their business approach, whereas I'm much more risky. I think you only live once and you should just go for it.
Yeah, fair enough. I think that's sort of what we're operating by.
Yeah, I really like that. You know, I think, like you say, we can all listen to the advice from others and just stick in our lane and so on. I mean, just quickly, so obviously you work, so your husband, I think you said,
Yes.
you know, so who's an estate agent. Does that kind of dynamic help the relationship, or does it hinder it?
No. Do you know what? I actually called him when I was sitting in my car before I came in to meet you guys. So I was a bit early, and I said, oh, can I just run this by you, like what I'm going to say in this podcast? I just want to like practice with you. And he said, you always just bloody complain that I'm just criticising you all the time. So why do you even want to talk to me about this? So I was like, okay. No, it's tough. It's really tough. We're both very headstrong people, and we clash a lot. I want to run his business and he wants to run my business, and there's nothing in between. So we try as much as possible, because we both have a lot to bring to the table. So it would be a shame for us not to be able to be involved in each other's businesses. But there is a line, and we've crossed it a lot of times. So we're still trying to figure that out. So any of your listeners have got any sort of marriage advice for couples working together, I'd be very appreciative.
Yeah.
We get that constantly, whether it's family, relationships, they're always like, be careful.
Yeah.
Heed this warning.
Yeah, it must be tough, because I was listening to it. Do you ever listen to the High Performance podcast?
Yes.
So they had that communication expert on who, you know, said, look, if you ever, you know, have, you need to talk to someone, it's like, well, what do you need? Do you need a conversation? Do you want advice, or do you just want an ear, kind of, or whatever?
To vent.
You know. Yes,
Yes.
you know. And I get, because I assume, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I assume because you're both business leaders, you could be venting to your husband as a way to vent and get it off your chest. And obviously your husband may naturally want to give advice. And you're like, well, I don't want advice. I want someone to talk to. Is that the dining room table for yourself? Is that?
Yeah, that pretty much sums up every car journey, every dinner, every walk that we've done together, where I love to vent and he then likes to tell me what to do.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's a bit too close to home. I help my dad out a lot in his business. And my sister actually works there as well. So that whole family dynamic there is next level. But yeah, I think I would say never work with family ever.
that is literally the sixth time we've heard
that every single time. And we've had to learn that lesson in the hard way in the past. But luckily we have learned that lesson. Not that we're related. I made it sound like we were family.
No.
We're not.
No, I mean, with Lucy's revelations, it wouldn't surprise me a little bit. But no, and I guess like the only way that would be tougher is actually if you went into business together.
Yeah. Has that been something that was considered and perhaps shot down quite quickly, or not even considered?
We do have a business together. So he's got the estate agency, I've got Profit Cash Growth, and then we have a property business together. And we have actually recently bought a grade 2 listed property that we're renovating. And I stupidly went into this thinking that this property's beautiful, like we could, restore it to its former glory. And he's gone into this thinking this is just another property. It's a numbers game. We're just making money. So even that, we can't decide on the flooring and the tiles to put in the kitchen, because I'm like, this is not in keeping with the property's history. And he's like, Claire, what are you on about? So yeah, we have. We've agreed with that one because it's property related that I take a step back, which really frustrates me when I see him doing mortgage applications and asking me for like business plans and things like that. It really frustrates me because he's doing a crap job of it. But I have to just let him get on with it because he's my husband and I want to stay married to him.
Absolutely. Obviously, we'll send this podcast on to him after this show.
I think his complaints might have had a little bit of basis.
Yeah.
What he then proceeded to say. Is he a guest on podcasts? Is that something that he's foraying into, or have you got the gambit on that?
Oh, no, see, there's this joke in our relationship that I'm always the assistant. So if we're like doing DIY or like anything, if you buy something from IKEA, I have to be the one that like opens all the packaging, like sorts of the screws into piles, and he just comes along and gets like the glory moment of like the drilling together. And I have said for a long time that I've wanted to do a podcast for like years and years. And so I was like, oh, maybe we could do a podcast for my business and talk about like growing a business and stuff. And he's bloody taken that over too. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
I know. Men. No, I'm not going to say
that. Speaking of men, you're not a man. You're a woman. I'm a woman.
Yes.
You are really doing something quite incredible, which is that you're starting and working for yourself as a woman. How has that been, female entrepreneurship? How have you found that?
I found it really quite invigorating, actually, that I think in the small business world, being a woman isn't really a thing compared to in the corporate world, which has been quite eye-opening for me. I don't think I've ever had a single businessman look at me in any way that I'm inferior, not capable of doing it. I think I've definitely experienced that in the corporate world, but not in the small business world, which has been quite interesting.
Yes. I know that it, from my experience, not where I'm currently working, thank you, Rob.
Thank God.
But the corporate world is really a man's world still. But it's nice to hear that that's not been the case for entrepreneurship. You're sort of playing on a bit more of a level playing field. Do you think, was that it for you from the go? Or do you think being in maybe a more respected field like accountancy helped with that?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think that from the start, I'd say like 80% of my audience is men. Every single one of my customers is men, and it's not by design at all. It's just how it's happened. Whether I would have had the same thing if I wasn't in an accountancy role, I'm not sure. It's difficult to tell without that experience. I think I'm not comfortable personally in female-only spaces. I think they end up very emotional. You end up talking about all the barriers that are preventing you from getting by instead of actually just cracking on and doing business. And that maybe plays into why people think that women are held back in small business.
Yeah, and I think, obviously, I take a different viewpoint on everything because I'm a man. and so on. And
Devil's advocate over here.
yeah, I just want to play it fair, boys. Don't worry, I've got you back. I've got you covered here. You know, I mean, in terms of, you know, what you've recognised, I know one of the things that you're quite sort of, you've got some strong messaging about is sort of these women-only business clubs, these women-only, you know, networking events and so on. I've seen dozens of them crop up across, you know, Leicestershire. I mean, what are your viewpoints on those?
I personally, I think they're ridiculous. Why, unless you have a product that only females are going to buy, why go into an environment where you're cutting off 50% of the population and 50% of your customers? Yeah. I think that one of the least defining characteristics of a person is their sex, whether they're male or female. So I'm not sure. I think that, for example, like I like football and I do a lot of sport. So if there was a male only, I don't know, like podcast that's not aimed at me, why? When I could be a listener and I could be a valuable listener and potentially buy from that business. And I think it's the same for whatever business you've got. And I've been to some because they feel like a nice thing to do. They talk about sisterhood and come and make friends and they seem fun. But then when you're there, a lot of it is just talking about the barriers and everything that's going against you. And there's always challenges in life, like always challenges.
Yeah.
And if you feel sorry for yourself about them or think that it's bigger than it is, then you won't overcome it.
Absolutely. And I think like I was quite naive to it, you know, especially when I got into business. I just, similar to yourself, I don't really see sex or gender. I just, if you can do a good job, you can do a great job and you're doing a great job. It doesn't really matter what you're packing. I don't know what I'm supposed to say. I don't know what the political term is there. You know, and you know, if you look at our business, you know, for the majority of the time, it always sits around 70 to 80% female within our team, you know, with obviously the other 30-40% being male and so on. But once again, that's not by choice. It's not like I wake up and go, do you know what? We must hit those quotas. We must hit this, that, and hit that and the other. And I remember a business leader in Leicester trying to set up a male only networking event. Which didn't go well. He doesn't live in Leicester anymore. And I think that was
drove him out the
caveat.
Pitchforks.
Yeah, and I know this is quite a very opinionated topic, so I guess there's going to be some, you know, comments on this. I mean, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but do you feel that those kind of female-only led events and such, do you think they help support the divide, or do you think they help bring people together?
I think that they increase the divide, because if I feel like I have an issue with a person or a group of people or a business or something like that, the way to resolve that is not to segregate myself from them and pretend they don't exist.
Yeah.
And I want to be successful in the world of business. I don't want to be successful in the world of female business only, because that's not representative of the real world that we live in.
Yeah.
I think there's a place for female and male only places where there are specific problems that, you know, only females experience or only men experience, and there are things like that, you know, like periods, for example. If you just make you feel really uncomfortable.
No, it's okay. It's my favourite topic.
But you know, you wouldn't want to join a group. It would be a bit weird if you were there talking about them with us. So you know, that makes sense for that to be a female only place, but it just doesn't make sense to me for business to be a female only place, because no business only employs females.
Yeah, agreed. And I think like maybe it's more of the open conversation, the open education. You know, I mean, I think what everyone's come to learn is that us here at Paragon Sales Solutions, we're very open, maybe a bit too open sometimes, you know. And I was talking to a team member earlier on today, and we're going for a one-to-one, and you know, we're just discussing some bits and bobs. She was like, I just need a minute, I'm on my period. Like, we're very open as to what's going on and how things are happened. There are some, don't get me wrong, you know, I think, and I'm gonna join the girls team for a second. There are some dinosaurs out there, some dinosaur men who, you know, who don't care about that. They wouldn't be the type to go buy a pack of Tampax from Asda because I don't dare touch a box. You know what I mean? Whereas we buy some for the team and just have them in the toilets. It's like an emergency backup kind of thing. But there's some dinosaurs out there, and I heard a story the other day, and I think this is why I'm so naive, because this is a lady who is perhaps a bit mature, you know, she'd be in the overs if she was a power lifter. And you know, she was recalling a story where it was very much, if you want to proceed in business, you've got to sleep with the boss or so on.
God.
And she literally got, she was invited round to the boss's and his wife's house and was pretty much, I think I'm taking this too far again, aren't I? But you know, look, the female-led, you know, kind of business club kind of things, in my opinion, can create a bit more of a divide. I mean, how would you feel if, just to put you on the spot again, if I would set up a male-only business club, do you think? Would that go down well?
No, it wouldn't, and I would have a significant problem with that, and I would probably, not publicly, but be one to comment and say, oh, you know, typical, look how much business is done on the golf club, and all of that, all of those old school sexist comments would come out, and I think it actually works both ways.
Agreed. Yeah.
I think it absolutely does. And it's like you said right at the very start, you've cut off 50% of your potential connections because you've decided, no, we're going to uplift women, but you're only allowing other women to do that.
Yeah.
If you could be helped by a man, or if you could help a man, you're all trying to get the same sort of piece of the pie, but you've cut that pie in half, saying, no, actually, because I don't want to do this, I just don't see how it could be useful. I understand, like you were saying, if there's something socially where you could find that really enriching to your life, have that be a female-only space, you know. I always go to say something like book clubs, which is, I think, a knitting, which is kind of sexist in itself. Women do lots of other things. Mountain biking. If you want to do that with a group of women, I think that's absolutely fine. But business shouldn't be female only and it shouldn't be male only. It should be completely mixed. And the only way that you're going to do that is if the people that are making those decisions also feel that way.
Yes, yeah.
Completely. And I fully agree. And I think no sleeping your way to the top.
Sorry, I shouldn't have really led with that story, should I? Sorry. But then that happens to men as well. That does happen to men.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing. Where do you think we got here now? Sorry, we won't go there.
As soon as the camera goes off, Rob's got a story and I know what it is. And that sounds awful, but it's about you as a whippersnapper.
My concern is that when you said Rob's got a story, in my head I went, which one? Oh, God. Take over, Sophia. Take it from me for a bit.
Okay, right. Gosh, I've got to get my head back together now. So you left your sort of job in the corporate world where you'd done extremely well and sort of had no need to leave. You were in a very good position and sort of while you were in that position said, no, this isn't where my heart's not in it. I'm going to go venture out. What was that like, that sort of decision to go?
I had got to the point where I didn't like my job anymore. It wasn't the company. It was a great company. And I always said I wouldn't leave that company for another job. But I knew my heart wasn't in it. I knew that I had only originally gone into the corporate world for qualifications and experience, and I always wanted to go back to small business. So actually, from that perspective, it was quite an easy decision to make. What I actually struggled with was physically doing it. I made the decision quite a while before I did it, and that took a lot of courage to walk away from quite a good salary and things like that. And I look back now and I wish I'd just done it forever ago. I hung around way too long. I also just got probably quite bad at my job because I hated it. And I just think I was like, my heart was not in it. I'd do a half-assed job at most things. And yeah, they should have sacked me, to be honest.
So that leads me in quite nicely. So you're now up to the point where you've made your decision that you're going to leave. Are there mistakes that you've made in business now up until this point that you're looking to carry over? What were those?
So the biggest mistake I made, and it's quite ironic really, because I've even made a YouTube video on how important it is to niche down because it's the most profitable way to run a business. And then I went into business and I was like, oh, well, I could do a bit of this. I could do a bit of management accounting. I could do a bit of, if somebody wants a business plan, I could do that. If somebody wants some help with their cash flow, I could do that. And I was like doing everything finance related, anything that I'd ever done in a job or had some experience in. And I, you know, coming from a finance background, sales and marketing is not something that I've ever really worked in. You know, I've got experience in it and I understand it, but I've not done it myself. And so things like trying to get your messaging clear and knowing what to put in a sales pitch and things like that became incredibly difficult, because first I had to understand what I was trying to sell to then figure out what that messaging should be. And when you're selling everything to everybody, it was really, really tough. So yeah, that was the biggest mistake I made, was just not niching down soon enough. So now we offer one service, and that is monthly management accounts, and everything after that has become so much easier. The marketing message, the sales that we do, everything that's on our website, all of the YouTube videos we make, it's just crystal clear because we only need to think about talking about one thing.
Hello, I'm Rob Spence.
And I'm Sophia Grace.
And welcome to How I Failed in Business.
Simon Cowell rang me the night before and was like, this is, not going to work. I want you in a white dress. I want you to look angelic. And I want you to sing Ness and Donna.
For a business podcast, I didn't expect quite so much gyrating, I'll be honest. But it was really, really something.
I wasn't expecting that word.
I took my eye off the ball. Not only did it nearly break the business financially, it genuinely broke me.
On this podcast, we take a not-so-serious look at business, told through the stories of business owners, entrepreneurs, freelancers, investors, and every interesting character we can get our hands on.
Our mission is to remind everyone that mishaps happen, being in business isn't always plain sailing, and that we are all human after all.
And if we can laugh along the way, everyone's a winner.
And today on Who Wants to Be a Bovril Heir, I'd like to welcome my guest, Sophia Grace. Sophia, welcome to Who Wants to Be a Bovril Heir. Would you say you're a Bovril expert or a Bovril amateur?
Bovril amateur.
Well, just then, the sound of a police siren
Nino.
echoed from outside, followed by the slam of a car door.
Slam.
What? Mystery mishaps. In this section, I will share with you 5 clues about a company that has failed, done some blunders, made some mistakes, and you have to name the company.
Okay.
Easy enough?
I am a digital marketing pro with a managerial background in events, sales, and marketing. I've got a love of all things creative, strategy, and branding.
And I am an internationally renowned sales trainer, sales author, sales coach, and also the founder and managing director of a multi-award-winning sales and marketing agency.
Between us, we're here to tell the stories of entrepreneurs without taking life so seriously.
I set up Swansea's only speed dating company.
And also, no one else is saying this, but no.
I feel like you're going to slap me.
Yeah, no, this is not the time. This is not the time for it.
And then Community Shield, Wembley, I think it was Arsenal and Man City. And singing the national anthem. Again, I went through my classic anxiety. Don't forget the words, everybody knows.
The second thing is wealth. So the wealth is not just money. Wealth is the time, freedom, actually being able to recharge the batteries, being able to create, being able to have different, times of the year where you're pulling and pushing back and stuff.
Join us every Tuesday and Friday for another hilarious and entertaining episode of How I Failed in Business.
Because behind every failure is another business success story waiting to be told. So welcome back to the How I Failed in Business podcast. So Claire, we were just talking before the break just about niching down and so on. So apologies, remind me, how long ago did you start to niche down? How long ago was that?
Only about 6 months now.
Oh, okay.
And in the last 6 months, I've probably done more sales and have more leads than I did in the 18 months beforehand when I was just trying to do a bit of everything. So it's when you track that and you I hate to say it, but track the numbers and that that's what's happening, it's a good indication that I'm on the right track and things are going well. So yeah, it's it feels really good now, whereas before I was just like constantly confused, thinking, is this right? What do I want to do? So yeah. And
I assume there would have been a bit of pain around that time when you started to kind of turn work away. Did you ever think, at that stage where you thought, right, I'm going to niche down, where you go, oh, this just doesn't feel right? Or
I was getting calls for jobs I didn't want. People like, we've watched you on YouTube, or we've come across your website and we see that you do this and we'd really like to work with you. And I'm thinking, oh God, I'm gonna have to put a 0 on the end of this quote so that they don't want to work with me.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. I never just said to people, that's not a service that I offer.
Yeah.
But I think the fear of not having any customers was quite overwhelming, and it's not a situation where I've been in before. So that, I think that was what was driving me. And yeah, I ended up quoting a lot of customers that I didn't want to work with and things like that. So to finally decide just to do this one thing, and it's also, you know, what I've done my whole life in the corporate career as well. So it's absolutely where I'm most comfortable and most experienced. It just felt like an epiphany.
Yeah. And please correct me if I'm wrong, sometimes when you get to that stage, it feels like a whole weight being lifted from your shoulders a little bit.
Yeah, 100% it does, yeah.
Yeah, I remember, you know, similar to when I started the business, you know, I'd take on anyone and everyone. Yeah. I'll do that. Yeah, no issue. And, you know, you'd even, sometimes it wasn't necessarily just the services, it was sometimes the customers. You'd go, I can't work with these people, but you kind of put up with it because you're worried about losing the money. But isn't it such a nice relief when you get to pick and choose a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. And especially in doing the work that I do, the finances, like I had a call with this guy and he had inherited a family business and then it wasn't profitable. So instead of working on getting that business profitable, he just decided to go and buy more businesses. And so he'd gone and like bought 4 more businesses and none of them were profitable. You know, one of them came with a building and the building was half collapsed. So he's telling me all of this and he's basically saying, I don't have any money, I'm in a right old mess, and I've worked with all these business coaches before and not one of them's been able to help me. And I'm like, I'll give you a quote. And I look back now and I'm like, what were you doing? Like, this guy was just going to be a nightmare. So yeah, it's very nice to be able to choose the right customers as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And you tend to find that when you do that, just that headache, the stress, because sometimes, you know, you deal with these customers and you always get that kind of that anxious feeling when you see them ringing on your phone or you see a text, oh no, you know, that kind of moment. So another thing that I know that you're quite interested in and got some viewpoints on, and it's a term Sophia and I hadn't really heard of, really, apart from Walking Dead. Zombie companies. What's a zombie company? What is a...
So as I actually came across this listening to a podcast that Jeremy Hunt was on, and he was talking about one of the problems in the UK with like productivity. If anybody's into like politics, even remotely, you probably would have heard people saying that we have very low productivity in the UK. So that means that the output we have for the number of employees is generally quite low compared to other countries. And the main reason that he says is behind that, and I do quite agree with this, is that because we've had such low interest rates for so long, businesses have been able to borrow loads of cash really cheaply to prop themselves up and keep themselves going. And I think we saw this quite acutely in COVID with the bounce back loans. And we see now that there were so many bounce back loans given to businesses that just simply are not viable. And the argument is that all of this finance by the banks and lenders were being pumped into these, actually a lot of small businesses that were not profitable, viable businesses that were based off sound business and financials. And they've coasted along for years and years off of low interest rates. And now, unfortunately, they're all going bust. And you know, it's really sad when a business goes under, especially if it's a small business, because somebody's life, and you can't help but ignore the emotional side of it. But if it's not a viable business model, then there is an element of let's cut your losses and move on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in terms of that, it's funny, once again, it was a thing we were talking about yesterday, because the bounce back loan was the only thing we were eligible for as a business during COVID, because we didn't have registered business addresses, so we were null and void from every grant that was available. You know, I saw all my friends walking around with the latest Gucci handbag that they'd used their grant on, but we weren't eligible for it. The only thing we had was the bounce back loan, and we were looking on our profit and loss. I believe the interest on that loan last year, so from March to March, was £31. It was free money at the time. They were literally chucking free money, and the only reason we took it on was, you know, I was talking to an accountant friend. We didn't have an accountant at the minute. I know, sacrilege, you know, but they said, look, you know, if you're not eligible for anything, just go for this bounce back loan, stick the money in the bank. If you need it, you need it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know,
and that's bonkers advice. You'd never take on a loan now.
Yeah.
Like you were talking about some of your plans for expanding and things like that, and you wouldn't go and get a loan unless you knew that you could pay that back.
Exactly.
But in COVID, we all just seemed to lose our minds a little bit, didn't we, on so many different levels.
God, yeah, I think we all, some of us never gained it back, to be honest. So in terms of these like zombie companies, you know, I mean, is there a cure for that? Is it just something that's going to naturally, you know, die down as these companies go bust? What's the the next steps?
I think it's having a look at the business model that they're working on. Like if it's a small business, I mean, other than today from talking to you, I generally say small businesses don't have out of control costs because
it's not the company, it's Rob
It's
that
me.
has out
Yeah.
of control
I'm just
costs.
a very generous boy.
But generally it's not the cost base that's the problem in small businesses. It's the fact that you're not selling the right product at the right price. And if you can't get your sales and your margin right, then you're pretty much screwed as a small business.
Yeah.
And you can't scale. And that is the situation that a lot of people find themselves in when they start their business. You'll probably sympathise with this starting this business is at the start, you're only worried about earning enough money for you to live. And then you come to thinking, okay, I need an employee, but it's like, is the profit there to pay you and an employee? And that's that first realisation where you're like, bugger, I don't have a scalable business model. And so that would be the first thing that I would have a look at is pricing and gross margin and fix that, because that's pretty much 99% of where the issues lie for small businesses.
See, do you know what? I really love that because, and please do feel free to reach over and slap me if you wish, because look, I'm a salesperson. Okay, obviously I deal with a lot with accountants and financial directors, and they're very much spreadsheet people. And the second you start talking about accounts, they look at the bottom line, they look at costs. Where can we save money? What investments can we stop? Because then that will in turn do the thing. I think we're similar minded. I'm like, well, forget about the costs. Let's just increase the sales.
Yeah.
You know, why do you think that is with yourself? Where's the spurn for sort of? Because I was watching your videos on YouTube earlier on today. Some of your shorts, I think, where you had a little whiteboard out, and you're talking about various KPIs. Where's that kind of passion for kind of growing sales come from within yourself?
I think because I've had my own businesses, and I think that's the key difference between accountancy. People think that accountants know everything about business. They don't. They know about accounts. And there's actually most of the accountancy qualifications teach accountants to file accounts with HMRC and do tax returns. That's not been that business minded. So I actually studied, it's called CIMA, which is Chartered Institute of Management Accountants. And that's actually preparing you to be a CEO or CFO, so more strategic. And only a third of that you study accountancy. It's all about project management, marketing, HR, sales, all of those kinds of things that make a business. But you learn so much when you run your own business. And I think being involved with my parents' businesses from a young age and having my own businesses, you can't put a price on that from experience wise.
Yeah, 100%. It becomes that kind of nurture side of things. So final question from me, really, it sounds like a police interview now, doesn't it? Final question from me, you kind of touched upon it a second ago. New business owner, starting out, want to set up their own business. What, of course, other than reaching out and getting in contact with yourself, what key piece of information, what key piece of knowledge, what kind of key tip would you give to someone sort of day one, week one of business?
The only thing you need to do when you're starting out in business is find out if you've got a product that people will buy from you at the price you want to sell it at. And if you don't, there is no point worrying about a website, a company name, a logo, any of these things that you think matter at the start. Even, I'd probably get a lot of criticism from any other accountants that are listening, but even a business plan. Don't even bother doing a business plan, because when I started out, what I thought I would sell is not what I'm selling now. So if I had spent loads of time doing a business plan, it's now out the window and it's pointless. So I would say probably in your first year to 2 years, until you're ready, like that you've got a proven business model, a proven product that people will buy and pay good money for. Don't worry about anything else. And it really is as simple as that. Just sell.
Love that. Absolutely. Look, that's like taking words out of my mouth, because we've had some good conversations about business plans.
We've talked at length about business plans in one. I don't know if that episode's out.
So that was on Jane's, I think, Jane Brewer's episode. So it'll be out because after this one, it's probably not out at the time of recording.
We've spoken about business plans
before
and said essentially what you've just said, which
Yeah.
is quite nice to hear.
People get very hung up on the finer details, and for me, business plans are just made up anyway.
Yeah.
They go, "Oh, what sales are you going to make next year? 2 million. What about the year after that? 2 million plus 20%, probably." Like, it's all made up. When I started the business, there was no business plan. I think I've done what you said, but without knowing it. I'd got a good product or a service, rolled with it. Now we do have a kind of business plan, but it's just more of a strategy and vision board more than.
And that's
anything.
really important, because you need to make sure that like you're holding yourself accountable. So I think it's
Yeah.
important that you put a goal out there.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
And you know, a business of this size where you've got employees and buildings and things like that, you've got to have some sort of plan to make sure that you can pay for everything.
Yeah, of course. Tell me about it. Yeah.
You're not going to get in trouble. But when you're probably less than 100k, maybe even up to about 200k, I'd say, and you haven't got employees, you just need to sell every day, pay yourself a wage, and then when you're ready to get a bit more serious, then do a business plan.
Love that.
And I've got a sort of version of Rob's question. I'm not a business owner, but I'm always looking for finance advice. Is there something that you'd say just to this sort of average Joe? What key piece of finance advice would you say? Actually implement this into your life?
Track your numbers. Like, even if you just pick one important number, if you're a complete numbers phobe and you think I can't fathom looking at lots of different things, just pick one number, pick one thing that you've always struggled with, or one thing that stresses you out. So if it's, can you afford your loan repayment, or how much money is left in your bank, just track that, because eventually you will become comfortable with it and you'll be able to add another number in and another one. And then before you know it, you've got a lovely reporting pack that helps you drive your life or drive your business.
Okay.
Is everything okay, Sophia? Do you
No.
know?
Do you feel
I'm in
stressed out by
dire
that?
straits.
Yeah, I do like that. I read a book once called Managing Oneself. It was talking about turning your life into a business and looking at it that way. And I did all that, and literally my life was a spreadsheet, believe it or not, literally looking at every penny that I spent as an individual. This was way before the business, to understand where things are going. We'll speak to Conor Van Dyke. He loves a spreadsheet, that man.
He dreams of them.
I actually listened to a podcast once, and it was similar to that. This guy said, I run my life by a spreadsheet, and I was thinking, it's going to like plan his time, plan his finances. But no, he planned the value that his friends and social experiences delivered to him. So he would record everything that he was doing in a spreadsheet and then rank it. And basically, if you were like his lowest ranking friend, you got cold because you weren't adding value to his life.
That's why I don't see him anymore.
It's like, is her name Marie Kondo, that does it spark joy?
I don't know.
Her business model was about decluttering your house, and just if it's in your home and it doesn't serve a purpose or spark joy, bin it, sack it off.
That's why Gail Platt stays in my living room, because she brings joy.
She brings joy.
every
She
day.
sparks joy.
I actually love Gail Platt. I think like I don't know.
Is that why you wanted to come on the podcast?
Yeah. Since I heard that, I think that the relationship that Gail Platt has with David is like gold dust, and I really want the artwork.
Well,
Contact Joe Lysett.
I was talking about this the other day, because it sits on a table, and my girlfriend was looking the other day. So I built the table. I don't like to brag, but I built the table.
I did
And she went, yeah.
Don't like to brag, but everyone knows it.
Similar to this bar that I built behind me with my bare hands. But she was like, when we move house, we can take the table, but you're not taking Gail Platt. So maybe we bring Gail Platt into the studio set. What do you reckon?
She would fit.
I think it makes sense, doesn't it? It makes perfect sense. I think we'll bring Gail Platt in.
Very full circle.
Would you consider selling prints of it? Because
Well,
I would pay for it.
Well, I can't, because it's a print in itself, isn't it? I mean, I'll sell it to you.
You've got a
£1,000.
photocopier upstairs.
Actually, I probably would pay £1,000 for it, actually. I've got like a little cubby hole in my kitchen that I'm just looking for something. Like you say, every house should have something unusual in it. And I
God,
want
you have listened, haven't you?
I'm a big fan, yeah. And I really want something that people are going to come into my house and say, what the fucking hell is that?
Yeah, but that's what life is all about. One thing I don't think I told you. I can't tell. God, I'm going again. One thing I've got in my downstairs toilet, right? So I've got lovely paintings. So my uncle and auntie were artists back in the 70s, right? After finding their old slides, right, and bought a projector, it turns out they could have been swingers, I think, right? Okay, there's nothing as horrifying as seeing as your auntie's boobies. Okay, but anyway, it's beside the point. So in my downstairs bathroom, lovely, gorgeous painting done by my auntie, lovely flower, but upon closer inspection, it's a vulva. I'll send you a photo. So in my downstairs toilet, I've just got a vulva on the wall, and the way that gives it, gives it all away is it's really nicely done. Obviously, it's all like a flower and so on. There's two people having sex at the clitoris section of the yeah, genuinely, or kind of like maybe not having sex, but like laying down in a moment of ecstasy, maybe. So that's like I said, the talking points of the
So no normal artwork in his home.
What did you call them? Porn posters?
Porn? No, but you ordered actual porn posters. That's why I called them that.
I didn't go for them in the end. I didn't go for them because we needed podcast kit. But talking about the podcast kit, you have your own podcast. You have your own show.
It's more like a airing of my marriage issues, to be honest with you.
I'm going to be tuning in. I'm fascinated by all this.
When me and my husband try not to bicker publicly for about 45 minutes once a week on a Friday.
I mean, surely that's just like free counselling, isn't it? Surely.
Yeah, it's quite enjoyable, actually. I didn't think that I would enjoy doing it so much, but I do. So we're going to keep it up.
Yeah.
I hope that people are finding it helpful. We're getting good feedback on it.
Good.
So yeah, it's called Profit Cash Growth, and it's on all the big sites and YouTube. He won't get on camera, which is annoying me because I quite like being on camera.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll be trying to tempt him into recording some, but at the moment it's only audio.
Fantastic. Well, what you can do I assume you're on Spotify as well. You can recommend other podcasts on Spotify, so we'll be sure to recommend yours.
Thank you very much.
So we'll put a little shout out for you.
And
So
where else can people find you?
So the best thing to do is go to our website, profitcashgrowth.com, or you can email me, Claire at profitcashgrowth2.
Perfect.
fantastic. Well, look, this has been a fantastic episode. I feel like we could talk about dodgy art all day long, to be honest. But look, I really hope some people reach out to you and make some contact, and I think for me, for someone who is so number illiterate, I think I can really see the value in what you bring to businesses. And I love the fact that you've got that kind of what did you say earlier? Just sell. I love that as a salesperson. It's fantastic. So thanks so much for joining us on the episode. It's been a pleasure. And hey, look, if you're ever looking for guests for yours,
yeah, absolutely, you should come along.
We bicker like a married couple, so
yeah, we do the same.
Deflect some of the attention.
We do. And then it'll be 2 on 2. Then it's two girls and 2 boys. I feel less outnumbered. But no, thank you so much for coming along. It is a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
Who's doing the roundup?
Okay,
go on over to you.
Yeah, this has been a great episode of How I Failed in Business podcast. Sorry, I've just leaned in and out of the microphone. But yeah, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to podcasts. And then on social media, you can find us at the How I Failed in Business podcast. We will be sure to post the vulva painting as this episode drops. So you really don't want to miss giving us a follow on Instagram.
Absolutely. It's a good one.
It's
big though. It's big.
Well.
But I think it's to scale.
Oh my goodness. Right. Like, comment, drop us a review. Please don't let what Rob said hinder your reviews. 5 stars, please, or just don't bother. Why would you leave us a low star review?
Exactly. Who does that?
And we'll see you in the next one.
All the best.
Bye.